Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome, Jean-François Rous. He is an esteemed client of ours at Lux Research, and we are introducing him into our Innovation Leaders series, where we profile some of the best innovation leaders in the world and what they're doing today, so we can all learn and be inspired by them. So welcome, Jean-François.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marisa.
So let's get started. My name is Marisa Kopec, and I'm the president at Lux Research. Lux Research is a research and advisory firm that specializes in human-centric innovation. We advise leaders across industries, manufacturing, energy, and consumer products goods primarily. As I said, it is our privilege to have one of the greatest leaders in the industry right now speaking with us. So let's get started. And what I'd love for you to do first is introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role.
Thank you very much. So I'm working for a structure called Adisseo. Adisseo is one of the leading companies in the sector of feed additive for the animal nutrition, especially for one key product, which is called the methionine, which is one of the essential amino acids used in that sector. And my role there is to lead the technology development, so research, innovation, most likely. And by technology development, I mean, on one side, one key aspect of our business, which is process development. I mean, methionine is a very competitive sector, as well as vitamins. So we are producing vitamin A in this domain, and these are very competitive sector, where process innovation is key to maintain competitiveness and leadership position. And on the other side, on what we call the specialty products, this is all about the new product development and the speed at which we introduce new products on the market. And by new products, we mean enzymes, probiotics, other type of additives. I mean, all these kind of phytogenics, I mean, all type of additives for which obviously the functionality and the performance is key, hence improving the performance, introducing new products one after the other is key. So these two aspects, which are to some extent quite different, on one side focusing on the same product and producing that product in a very efficient way, and on the other side innovating in new products and services as well. These are the scope. This is the scope of what I'm supposed to lead with the teams.
As a chief technology officer, I think it's one of the greatest jobs in the world. I'm sure you do too. Very interesting role. What are some of the primary objectives of your role, aside from new product development? Like, what do you do every day? Like, what's the inside view of your role?
There are several aspects. I mean, one which is to make sure that people are having the ability to do the job they are supposed to do. I always mention to the team that my role is to make sure that they can do their job properly. It's not to tell them what to do. I mean, they know better than me what they have to do. And my role is to make sure that they can do it in the best possible way. If there are some blocking issues somewhere, I'm here to unlock them and to make sure that they can carry on doing what they are supposed to do. And if they succeed in their job, I will succeed too as well. Okay, so that's my perception of what I'm supposed to do on a day-to-day basis. And on a more, let's say, foreseeing aspect is to design and to think about the next step. Okay, the teams are focused on what they have to deliver today, and I'll come to that later in terms of what we do in terms of project management and portfolio management. And that's something which is well in place, I would say. So part of my role is now to think about the next steps and what could be the technologies for tomorrow, how to challenge the team to start to look into these potentially disruptive technologies, look at what the competition is doing, look at other markets, close markets to ours, but not necessarily our market directly, and what they are doing, what type of technologies could be integrated in what we are doing. So basically the kind of things which the researchers in the teams and the technologies cannot do on a day-to-day basis.
So you're very much a leader that enables your team, an enablement leader, essentially.
Well, I hope so.
Yes. And it's interesting to think about so much of your role is looking outward. It's an inward role in terms of operating the portfolio and keeping the portfolio modernized and developed and relevant to your customers. But that your role on the senior leadership team is very much to be a visionary and to be bringing the organization forward. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's I think, yeah, that's the fair assessment. That's my perception of what that role is about in whatever sector. I mean, myself, I've been working in different sectors, always in innovation, and I think that indeed that role aims at opening doors and make things which appears to be impossible at some point possible. Okay, and make people understand within the structure, not only the collaborators but also the peers and to some extent the CEO, understand that we might or we could do things in a different way to achieve our objectives. And if we do so, we have the possibility to go over the competition, okay, and make sure that we develop a leadership position, which is what we aim to do all the time to secure our business. And if there is one function within companies that can do that, is that function. Should we call it innovation, CTO, I mean, whatever. But I mean, that role is about opening doors and making things which appears impossible possible.
I love that. Turning the impossible into the possible. Excellent. All right, let's move on to kind of talking about, as you are looking outward and you see a lot, what are the emerging trends that you're seeing today and are shaping the future of your organization?
So there are some trends which I would classify as the common trends for any business, like sustainability. Obviously, I mean, I don't even want to mention that as a trend anymore, because that's integrating now in our DNA. I mean, we do not initiate. If I talk about process improvement or process innovation, I mean, any new process we integrate has to have a positive impact. I mean, if it doesn't, or if it's only on the economic aspect, we don't do it. Okay, it's now, to be fully honest, if it has a positive impact but a negative impact on the economics, it might be difficult to do it as well. Okay, so we try to combine positive impact on the greenhouse gas emission and positive impact on the economics, which is at the end of the day the definition of sustainability. Okay, it's not just about environment; it's environment and economics. The second one, which is a trend which is becoming more and more pregnant in our sector, this is all about the trade barriers. Should it be the tariffs issues we are facing today, but also the regulatory aspects. A few years ago, basically that was FDA and EFSA, FDA US, EFSA in Europe, and if your product was registered by one of these two, most of the other countries around the world were taking this as the proof, and they could launch the product. Now it's over. Each region and almost each country has its own system, so it's becoming more and more complex to register a product. And we are operating in a business which is highly regulated, which means that it takes longer and longer. And I mentioned that because that has impact on how we do our R&D part of the project. Because if the regulatory one is taking longer and longer, we need to shorten the R&D one if we want to maintain our ability to improve our time to market. The third trend, which is standard as well, is obviously the digitalization. I mean, we develop machine learning tools, not yet to the extent of AI, but much more into the machine learning. And even if we are talking about, if we're in the sector which is the living, okay, we're talking about the living, we generated over the years an enormous amount of data, and we keep generating a lot of data with our customers. And that allows us to develop specific models which can help us in predict the performance of products. And this is becoming more and more important. We're also developing digital twins of not only the plants, but also some of the strains which we are using to produce enzymes. I mean, all this kind of digitalization is a key element. And if you don't integrate that you lost. Okay, it's not a question. The question is not should we go or not. The question is how do we do it in the most efficient way, because the others are doing it as well. And then maybe more specific trends which are important for our, to some extent, it's a niche sector, and I'll come into that with for the methionine sector. It's about energy efficiency. I mean, energy is costing more and more, and will cost more and more. So we have to develop processes which are requiring less energy, and sometimes the obvious one are not necessarily the ones we think about. Capex is an important matter. I mean, in the probably in about 10 years, the same plant now costs twice as much. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's and it increased significantly after COVID. But I mean, the cost of material to big plants has increased enormously. So we need to be very cautious in terms of capex, even if to some extent it's a nice barrier for others to enter. But I mean, this is not sustainable on the long term. Another one, which is regionalization. You're fully aware that in all the regions, people are looking for local. So how do we develop local products when you've got an increased cost of the regulation part? Okay, and when you need to register a product, if you don't sell it globally, you don't have any return on investment. Okay, so I mean, how do you combine the necessity of having products per region while you need to register as well all the different products? And last but not least, the competitiveness of what we are doing, even in the specialty sector, where you might wonder or you might question the fact that competitiveness is not so much of importance, but yes, it is. I mean, in this domain, our customers don't necessarily have high margins, okay? And the customers of our customers, so basically our customers are the feed manufacturers or the integrators, and their customers are the farmers. So in that sector, the margins are very small, okay? So if you introduce a product which is not in line with what they can afford, even if it is highly performing, they won't take it. So you need to be very competitive in the way you develop technologies to make sure that people can have access to this kind of technologies as well. So these are basically the key trends for our sector.
A very incredibly well stated summary of the trends that are going on in the industry across innovation leaders in many companies today. I think it's very interesting when you were talking about AI. It almost seemed that it was part of the evolution of digital transformation, that you don't see it as something separate. It's just how you're transforming digitally. Is that a fair way to think about it?
That's at least the way we approach it. I mean, this is digitalization as such is just basically it's not a revolution. Okay, it's something which has to come progressively to help people, because I mean, as we all know, the key issue is not the tools or the or whatever we need to develop, is the acceptance by people that these kind of techniques or tools are here to help them in doing their job in a better way. Okay, so how do you do that smoothly as well and without creating a disruption, even if to some extent we also know that some jobs will disappear, okay, due to the development of all these tools. So the question is, how do we help the people transitioning as well, okay, from what they do today to what they will do tomorrow? So if you integrate these kind of techniques in a brutal way or in a disruptive way, it's very dangerous. Okay, so it's a question of taking time. And yes, AI is potentially a way to go even further and to integrate some specific, even if, I mean, let's be clear, there are some AI tools which we are already integrating, okay, I mean, for patent analysis or meta-analysis, I mean, all these kind of things which are reasonably well developed today. I mean, these, we are using some of AI tools. But I mean, the big transformation will come with time.
As you think about all of the things your organization is working on in terms of machine learning and LLMs, could you share with us a use case? What do you think is the best example or where you've had the most success with that?
I'm not sure I can describe a success yet, because that's something which we started, let's say, 3-4 years ago, okay,
Yeah.
by basically realizing that we were sitting on a gold mine of information and not using that information to develop the next generation of products. So the kind of things which we started to put in place, and we hope that they will lead to success tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. It's basically, I mean, modeling what happens when you integrate an additive in the feed, and then that feed is being used by animals, and then we measure the performance of animals. So today, the standard way of doing that, you develop your additive through different techniques, and you go into in vivo trials where you give your product to animals and you see if they produce more milk or if the eggs is more yellow or whatever, whatever performance you're looking for. We are experimenting today the ability to do that in silico, okay, based on all the data that has been generated over the years. So we start to have models which are interesting. And the next step, and this is what I would expect as a success, is to be able to use that to design the next generation of products, okay, as a function of what we want to achieve. So we are not there yet, okay, but we expect to be there soon. We've been developing that with different partners. I mean, this is not something which we cannot do ourselves, and this is not our job to do that. So we do have partners, I mean, startups, most in almost all cases, I mean, for different parts of the activities we are building, and that's something which I would expect in the next, let's say, 2-3 years would be the standard way of developing product for us, and not the traditional way as what we've been doing so far.
That's really very fascinating. Thank you for sharing. All right, let's move on to my next question, which is, looking back at your innovation journey, what are some principles or learnings that have remained consistently valuable to you? Can you share with us some tenets of your success?
I think that, I mean, the most important things to make sure, I mean, to have people understand is that, very often when we talk about innovation, people think about idea generation or disruption, but they forget that first of all, innovation is a process, and without a process, you don't innovate. Okay, that's a clear aspect. And even if we are talking about shaping the future or developing the next generation of technologies, if you don't have a proper process to do that, it's not going to happen, or you might be lucky once, but you might not be lucky twice. So that's the first thing. So all over these years, making sure that we use the right process to innovate, the right process to discover as well. There are basically, I mean, us, for instance, so we have 2 processes. I mean, it's very simple. In our global research, innovation, and technology development, we've got 2 processes. One which is about project management, okay, standard stage gate process. I mean, very simple. And the other one is the discovery process. How do we develop a proof of concepts on potential future technologies? And our role is now to make sure that we can link the 2. I usually say to people that if you want to accelerate the time to market for developing new products or new processes or new services, you need to make sure that your project starts when you know what you're going to do. If you start your project by saying, okay, let's see what we could do, then it's going to take ages. And the best way of making sure that you know what you're going to do is to have a proper discovery phase where you can indeed open the doors, open the ears, eyes, look at the outside, test things, develop proof of concepts. And once you've got something proven, then you can propose that to the business and say, okay, we've got something here which could be the base of a new product. Should we start a project? And then you start a project and it goes fast. So the biggest thing for me all over the years, and to some extent it's been the same in the different companies, was to convince my peers and the business guys that they needed to make sure that part of our global budget would be like would be treated as something like if it was my if you want my pocket money to play. Okay, say okay, there is a certain amount of the budget which you need to trust me that I'll be using that budget in a wise way to make sure that we can propose topics to you. So everything doesn't need to be controlled, because you know how it is. They want to control all the parts of the budget and to make sure that it enters at the right place and we spend the right money to make sure that we develop the right products. I say, yes, this is normal, and that's the project management. But for discovery, trust me, okay? And a certain amount of the budget, I mean, currently it's 10% of our global budget, is dedicated to discovery. And with this discovery, we can indeed propose plenty of new topics, okay? And that accelerates enormously the time to market. And that's
it's very interesting. You're talking process, which is one of my loves. So I'm really enjoying this part of our conversation. Yeah, I'm so interested. One, obviously, you're an incredible leader, so alignment with the businesses is key to this role's success. You have to have strong alignment and strong trust. I'm interested in the discovery process. Well, how do you manage it, and how are you involved with it? How are you orchestrating that so it successfully works?
Yes, so that's a very good question indeed. I mean, to make sure that first the trust on one side and then the performance in terms of success on the other side is aligned. Basically, we define. I mean, once again, even if we talk about discovery, it's not all around the place. So we need to make sure that we structure how we do things. So we integrated the business strategies. Okay, so what the business wants to do, what is their objective on the 5 or 10 years time frame. So that's one entry point. And the other entry point was to organize all our activities around what we call the key enabling technologies. And we defined a very small number of key enabling technologies, meaning that these technologies are the ones which we need to master, and everything which is outside doesn't mean that it's not interesting, but we need to rely on partners. Okay, there are things which we need to master, and nobody else can do it better than us. And for the rest, we can rely on partners. And having on one side the business strategies, and on the other side, basically all our competencies. How do we structure our competencies? Is the best way to make sure that we initiate proof of concept topics, which can then be the premises of potential new projects. And by doing that way, you confirm to the business guys that indeed you're not just spending the money on something which has no interest, because it's based on a known type of technologies on which we master, and it's based on their business strategy. Okay. However, we keep a certain part which is what we call the white. Okay, so something which is a blank page, meaning that we cannot cut everything. Okay, and we need to leave the door open to potential very disruptive ideas or something which is completely outside the scope, just in case. Okay, and this is something which was asked to me as well, because I mean, even if we have some very well structured businesses today, what could be a potential? We organize with 3 business units. What could be a potential 4th business unit tomorrow? Okay, right. Something which obviously won't come from the business strategies today, because this is based on the 3 domains in which we are. But could we have a 4th one tomorrow? And if yes, how does it start? Okay, and it might start from this kind of potential discovery ideas.
Interesting. So you have essentially a strategic framework which keeps you honest and aligned to the businesses. So it's more looking at core adjacencies, and then a section of the framework that's the open space for net new ideas or things that may be far away from core.
Correct.
Excellent. And then how do you organize? You have a 10% of the budget. What percentage do you put on the white space versus adjacency and core?
Today, with what we have in the pipeline, that should represent about 15%. Okay, 15% in this white. It could be more. Okay, I mean, I didn't give any objective at the beginning, so it has to be. We'll see with time. Okay, how it goes. Okay, but for the time being, this is about 15%, which is fine. Which is fine. I mean, I cannot judge. I mean, I cannot judge yet if it's sufficient or not. Okay, in terms of potential new topics or potential new ideas, we'll see with time.
Right, right. Our research shows usually core is about 60%, and adjacencies, new markets, new customers is about 30 to 35, and then it's about 5 to 15 for the breakthrough white innovation. So that kind of aligns to, I think, what we see overall as industry standard. Let's talk about your partnership with Lux, and I have a few questions on that. What's the value you're receiving from us, and how do you evaluate the business value impact of us as a partner and provider?
Yeah, there are two elements which are very important. The first one is the network and the ability indeed to connect with peers at some point, and to exchange not only on how to do things, on how we do things in our different structure, but also how we could challenge ideas on what we could do better. Because I mean, nobody has the full understanding of what this is. And another element which is important to share with peers as well is the approach to risk. As you were saying at the introduction, I mean, the role of R&D or CTOs or whatever is basically to take risk on the future. Okay, and when we decide at some point, say, okay, we will focus resources to work on this enabling technology and that one. And as we know, it takes years to have the right level of competencies on that specific technology. So if you take the wrong decision, you might be in trouble. Okay, whatever might come out might be completely obsolete, or you might be wrong. So I mean, so at some point you need to make sure that you take the right decision, because they will have impact in the future and not necessarily now. And this is the big difference with business counterparts, that their decision has an impact today. Our decisions have impact on the future. So you need the different elements to feed yourself. So I mean, the approach to risk is different between individuals. So sharing that with the network is important. And the second aspect of what is key for me is the relationship with Naveen. I mean, Naveen has been great to me to challenge what I'm thinking of, because I mean, you are alone in the company. If you talk to the business guys, they don't have the same issues, okay? And this is not necessarily the best counterparts to challenge. You don't necessarily want to discuss some of your issues with the CEO, okay? So I mean, Naveen is very good to discuss with and to challenge topics. So that's very, very valuable, okay? And he helped me a lot over our numerous exchange on how to shape my strategy, how to organize things. And now we are in the process of putting in place the metrics to measure all of that. So that's been very, very useful. So yes, the network on one side, the ability to connect with other topics. So now that Naveen understands very well our domain, he connects me with different other CTOs from other domains outside my core business. And this is what I was looking for, and obviously the processes and the structure to help me in building the strategy. Yes.
Yeah. And for those of you who are wondering who Naveen is one of our executive partners. So one of the services Lux has is a membership for chief technology officers or other C-level executives, where we pair them with a very tenured analyst with a lot of experience to do exactly what Jean-François has described today. So advice for aspiring folks who want to someday be in the role that you're in. What would you tell the younger generation that they should do to become you?
Oh, they shouldn't become me. No, that's too dangerous. No, the first thing for this type of position is, I guess this is the same for many, but this is the one I know, and this is passion. I mean, you need to be passionate by science, by technology, by innovation, and you need to like risk. I mean, you need to test things. So and for that, you need to be open to the world. Okay, I mean, do not hesitate to go around and to meet a different culture, different approaches. I mean, different way of working. I mean, as you probably know, I mean, Adisseo is as a Chinese shareholder, so we are owned by so we are working a lot with China. We are owned by a big Chinese company, and I mean the culture in China, the approach to research and to the risk is completely different to the Occidental world. So I mean combining this kind of attitudes or approach to the work is very important, and there is no good or wrong, or bad or good or bad or wrong or right. It's a question of taking all of that and nourishing yourself with all these inputs to make sure that you think carefully about tomorrow and what you can bring tomorrow, and all of that with passion. I mean, that's I think if there is a keyword, two keywords I would keep is passion and like the risk. I mean, the risk and passion.
Great advice and a great way to end our conversation. I want to say it's a privilege to serve you and everyone at your company. And thank you very much for this, a very insightful and inspirational conversation today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Marisa.
Thank you.